There we go. Can you hear me okay? Well, I'm very grateful for the turnout, and starting right off, we're talking about mental health, and when we talk about mental health, it's something that no one of us can look after alone. It takes a psychologist here can't look after mental health of students by themselves, the teachers can't, superintendents can't, sorry Jane, and parents can't on their own. We talk about this being a whole school, whole community approach, so this is a great opportunity to talk about some of these concepts. The other thing, it's very nice to have an introduction and talk about my own history, being a psychologist and what I do, but I must say I cheat an awful lot. The wonderful team that I get to work with at the board, the Parent Involvement Committee, asked me to say something about what our resources are, so I'm just going to take a couple of seconds to say that we have school counselors. There are 7 of them. We have a few of them here tonight that are going to be doing presentations in the breakout rooms. I steal their PowerPoints and their slides and their ideas all the time. They're in my book. As well as we have school psychologists and psychological associates that are part of our team. Really, we have a senior psychologist, Dr. Susan Graham-Clay. She kind of looks after elementary. I look after secondary, but I've switched off and I do the mental health work. That means she does most of the work. And then we have a psychologist that goes out to 20 schools each, does assessments and consultations. That keeps them busy. They can't get to every school on a weekly basis. Assessments take 21 hours by the time we do all of it. And the school counselors are assigned to 6 or 7 schools each, so they try to get to each of their schools on a weekly basis. They see kids, but they consult with teachers, and they look at behavioral and emotional issues, the ideas for that child to be ready to learn, whatever their emotional state is, we wrap around them in schools. We're not trying to run a hospital or a clinic, but we are very knowledgeable about clinical kinds of things. We work in the school, but once again, we work with the community. We have to work with the parents, administration, and the community agencies. So we're trying to get better and better at all of that all of the time. I loved the topic. Thank you for that. Mental health at every age. It gave us an opportunity, that team, to say, what's the stuff that parents will want to hear about, and where are we at the history of working at mental health in our board. And really we're at an exciting, revolutionary time. People talk about it being very revolutionary. We had ages in the 60s and the 70s where we did behavior modification a lot. We focused on what's the behavior you're seeing, what can we reinforce the behavior that we want, how can we kind of ignore and not reinforce the behavior we don't want, and we had focus on that. Then came cognitive behavior therapy times, and the cognitive behavior principles you may know about. We're not just looking at the behavior and how to reinforce it, but what's that child thinking about? And maybe they're thinking about things that bring them down or things that make them anxious. Let's teach them how to think differently. And all along we knew that emotional behavior and emotional being was very important, but we didn't have much of a psychology for it. And that's the new exciting part. And the new exciting part is we now have in science, we have a lot better understanding of how the brain works. You're going to hear about that in the breakout sessions tonight. And we have more information on very interesting techniques or strategies you can use that make all the difference. And I'm going to say the word validate right now. You're going to listen for it for the rest of the night, okay? When a child is very, very agitated and we try to do BMOD or cognitive things in an agitated state, it's not going to fly. So that's the trick is going to lay within that little instant. You're going to hear more about it tonight. And this validation stuff, and we prayed tonight. I love when we start with a prayer like that. It softens me up, kind of gets me ready to talk too much. But anyway, with the prayer tonight, the prayer was about how we are as community and about love. And so it's so much easier to be a mental health leader when you get to talk about that stuff readily. One of the best predictors about how someone does when they have a mental health problem is the support system around them. And that's built into our Catholic system if we rope all this stuff together, which we try to do. The other thing that occurred to me was the life of Jesus and what are all the Gospels about? It's about validating. The guy had it right. Well, no wonder he had a head start. But anyway, in any of the stories in the Bible, the first thing Christ does he goes to somebody that's in pain, that's blind, that's whatever, and he validates their experience. That's the very first step. This is very key to what we're going to talk about now, and the power of that. If you've got teenagers that are giving you a hard time, like I had when my kids are in their 30s now. But anyway, understanding this little validation trick, you can have your children eating out of your hands if you do it right, and you'll love that trick tonight. So don't let that thought go away, or look for it all evening. So mental health at every age, that's what I'm supposed to be talking about. When funny little story, I woke up in the middle of the night and I was driving my old Chevy van, and I parked the van because the traffic wasn't moving. The traffic started moving and my van disappeared. I was running around looking for the van, and I woke up and said, what's going on? And what was going on was there was something missing in what I wanted to say tonight, and so I sat up in bed and got up and went back to sleep. And the thing, that's crazy, I know. I'm a psychologist. But anyway, the thing I wanted to talk about was something that ropes this mental health across the ages, the theme for tonight. It would rope that together a little bit for us all. And I remember a theory that's 50 years old, that's going to be around for another couple of 50s, because it's so wise to think about development through the ages and kind of what's going on in stages. So those of you that go to the breakout tonight for primary age children, and those of you that go to junior and intermediate, and those that stay here to talk about adolescent mental health, you'll get a little bit different story because they have different stress in their lives. What we also know now is when we used to talk about mental health, we thought about mental illness, and we did a lot of kind of running in after people were in great distress and trying to back up with them and turn that around. We know the great potential in schools is to make sure we do that good work, but the great potential in schools is work the other way around and just give kids the skills in the first place to manage their own emotions. Because they're all going to have anxious days, they're all going to have down mood days, some more than others, and if they have skill sets, so that when they get really, really in a bad mood, they don't just go to their room and play video games and smoke up or do something goofy. That's not managing your emotions, that's not managing your distress. Very neat when kids say, oh, I don't feel very good, I feel really rotten. I think I'm going to go shoot some baskets and get a good meal and eat a good sleep. And Mom, if you just listen, don't give me advice, but let with my talking a little bit. That's coping. That's the kind of stuff we're now teaching kids, that you just need to do it. And we've got a whole generation of people, it doesn't occur to them to cope. Watch TV, it just says take a pill, right? It doesn't tell you to go get some exercise when you're not feeling well. So this is what we're turning around. This is the revolution right now, is knowing that there are so many skills we can talk about. So this good old guy, Erikson, he came up with the idea that, notice that it says, well, maybe you can't read it back there, I'll read it for you. So, Erikson's stages of psychosocial development. There's a little bit of sexual stuff in there in a minute. Anyway, and so he had these stages, and he said, what's the main thing going on here in terms of the challenges and stressors in that kid's life, and what do we have to get them through? And just think of it, right, infant to age 18 months. He called that stage trust versus mistrust. Now, does anybody here that have had babies that have been around them, does anybody here not agree that they come out just fully loaded to express emotion? They come out fully, I couldn't believe it when our first little Erin was born. She looked cute when she first was born, but that I had bags under my eyes galore in no time, because when she was hungry or tired or something wrong with the diaper being too tight or whatever it was, wet, she let you know, and the battle was on. The battle is on to go and comfort that child and try to figure out the stress. And as time goes on, you have to shake that, because all she wanted to eat was the sweet pattern, you know, the sweet foods. The same ones I used to sneak and like, the banana one. And anyway, the child, as they grow older, there's this great tension then as you try to comfort them and not spoil them, and the battle is on to take them in a direction for their health. Yet, they have that emotion. They come out not with much capability to soothe their own emotion other than that thumb thing, right? And then after a while, they get exhausted and fall asleep from all the screaming. But other than that, they're not too good at it. And that's our journey. That's our journey to our grave, is figuring out what we do to manage that emotion and it not just be flying out of control. So that's trust versus mistrust. If you do a good job, comfort that child, get them the right nutrition now and then, not get too excited when they're distressed, but shake them around, cuddle them, give them what's nutritious for them, they come out feeling very trusting of adults. And what happens in that first 18 months of a child's life is still affecting them at age 65. That's the thing that we know. It very, very much sets the stage for mental health things to come and emotional balance to come. Then you jump to the next one, autonomy versus shame and doubt. So 18 months to 3 years. Well, just think of the terrible twos are right in the middle there somewhere, right? And so you've got this child that's saying no, no, no to this and that, and you go through that stage. And if you, during that stage of autonomy versus shame and doubt we're talking about here, 18 to 3 months, if as that child is saying no, and you're not engaging with them, and you're not impressed with that, and you're kind of peeved with that all the way through, that child then ends up feeling shame and doubtful. It's a little bit, well, that means I have to exercise if I'm sitting. Anyway, so they want to have that autonomy, is what Erikson said is the importance of that stage. Moving along quicker, initiative versus guilt. So 3 to 5, that's why daddy this, and why daddy that, and where did that go daddy? And again, if you don't find that something to engage in, you ignore that child and say, stop asking so many stupid questions, there's not going to be an awful lot of initiative in that child. They're going to feel guilty that they want to know stuff, and I just bother people. So you see the stages, and Erikson would go on and talk for pages and pages about each of these things, but our talks tonight will be focusing in on that time with the primary kids, junior and intermediate kids, and the secondary kids, and you'll recognize during the presentations that they have different stressors and they have different emotions to manage, but they have these jobs to do in development. Let's look at the next one then, 5 to 13 years, industry versus inferiority. We have the kid now in grade 1, the child in grade 1, moving on through the elementary years, and they are interested in things and they want to learn things. And if what happens along that way, they're not feeling like they're keeping up or they're learning or everybody's learning more, and they get an inferiority complex, then that's again setting them up for years to come of not feeling that they can. Everyone else can. They're a very sad child. The child would be at risk. And then we get up beyond that, age 13 to 21, the fun starts. That's the teenagers, right? Oh my God, I didn't know such a thing could exist. It's my own teenagers. I guess I was the same. I had 3 of them. So 13 to 21s, and that's identity versus role confusion. So, you know, children in those teen years try on different hats, and they try them on for a while, and you might be goth this week, and you might have your pants not going up much further than your knees the next week, who knows, but as time goes on, they are learning who they are, and they're trying things out, they're looking at reactions, and they're feeling who they need to feel. And that, again, needs a lot of love and support by parents and community and teachers and everyone else to be a little patient with that, as well as letting them figure out through the feedback who they are and who they want to be. 21 to 39 is intimacy versus isolation. So what does that mean for all of us? Who do we connect with in our lives? For loved ones, and not going off and living in a cave. 40 to 65, generativity versus stagnation. I think I'm fitting into this one all right. So the sense of generation and stagnation is getting to do stuff in your life where you think you make a contribution and you feel good about that, versus saying, I've always been, you know, all I do is watch the Leafs lose and I don't really have much of a life, and you don't feel like you're contributing, then you could end up kind of sad in your later years for that reason. And then ego, integrity, and versus despair at the end. And this is where the elders and the grandparents who have lived a good life and are willing to share that, and they're satisfied with who they are, and they want to share that with you and be involved with that. So there are all the stages that are going through mental health across the ages, and there's all this emotional work to manage your stressors within that. Now we get to I only have 3 slides. We'll get to my last slide, and this is really what my book was written about. And writing the book, it's called The Well-Aware Model, and it occurred to me that we talked so much about mental illness in the early years of our mental health strategy in Ontario. We had to, and we still have to. We had to focus on kids that are really distressed right now. But this is for everybody. These are the skills that really help kids that are in this mental health distress, and very helpful skills for kids that don't have the distress yet and may not have to have as much stress if they get this right. So, resiliency, and here I'm talking about social, emotional learning skills, which we teach in school, and we're learning more and more and more and more and more about how to do it better. So the child that says, I'm angry, I'm feeling really, really angry. And I know I'm feeling angry because I can feel my face burning and I got this impulse to swing. But I'm going to channel that. So you're teaching kids what they're feeling and how to express it properly. And that they can express it, not to push it down. That's very harmful. Pulling mood down. You're going to hear more again about the breakups tonight. It's not about pushing it down and being a good little boy, a good little girl, or a good little adolescent, or whatever. You know, they're big. Anyway, the idea with social emotional learning is having good relationships with other people, knowing what you're feeling, managing what you're feeling. And let's face it, we've come through a whole culture, at least I did, a whole culture where boys in particular, but all of us, especially you went to school, you're supposed to stop that emotional stuff and learn. Then the ministry played a trick 10 years ago and said, no, we're responsible for well-being and academic success in schools. So we all had to say, what's that about? And it's about this stuff. It's teaching the social, emotional learning skills. And as a matter of fact, we know we can do this. The research is like, it is so amazing. On average, when they look at the value of just teaching kids social and emotional learning skills, the feeling stuff, their grades go up on average 11 percentile points. That's over 170,000 kids from many, many studies when they summed it all together. Powerful, powerful stuff. And they feel better, get the better mental health. Well, go figure, why not do that? The other thing that in the model I pulled together, it's just based on research, areas of research. The other part is active. This doesn't matter if you're in kindergarten or you're grade 12, active lifestyle. And again, we're in trouble. We have, in the early studies a few years ago, only 7% of youth were getting an hour of physical activity a day, which the exercise physiologist is maintenance level, or just basic level, to have good bone density and sleep well at night and focus and learn at school. An hour a day of moderate to severe, no, that's the wrong word. Moderate to, what's the other word?
Moderate
more
to
intense activity. So just walking your small dog going slow wouldn't count for that part. So we need about an hour a day of working out. Our own studies, we've done this 5 years in a row in our high schools in Simcoe County and Muskoka. Our kids are 50%, which is great. It's above the kind of the national average, which has been found repeatedly. But that means 50% of kids still aren't at that hour. So I can't talk about well-being and mental health without saying we have so much research about the value of physical fitness and, well, physical activity, but then you can't say that without saying fitness and sleep and nutrition. And spirituality. People that are doing spirituality research in mental health are finding that people that have a sense of spirituality, they have a sense of a power greater than them, a connection that they can talk to the Spirit, talk to the God, talk to Jesus. So those kids have way better correlations of all the mental health measures, from taking drugs, quitting school, to having mental breakdowns and all of that. So it's powerful and right in there, and only in recent years have they been able to start studying that. The last little area here called flourishing, I use that word because the people in positive psychology talk about it all the time, and we know the 5 things that make you happy. Authentic happiness is found in these 5 areas. Hundreds and hundreds of studies boil down to these 5 areas. So why don't we just teach our kids and ourselves and our teachers and our everybody about it? And it's commonsensical. You know, my grandmother could have told me this stuff. It's commonsensical, but it's very, very powerful research when you read the study, just how any one of these by themselves can lead to significant happiness. I'll just go through them quickly. Positive emotion means you have something to look forward to on a regular basis. Can you imagine a poor high school student, grade 11 student, does nothing to look forward to? Not doing anything in the summer, nah. Not doing anything on the weekend, nah. And 20% of our kids are found not to have these flourishing indicators. So we want to get on that too. The other one is engagement, and this engagement means you have a hobby or something you do in life, and that's your thing. Hopefully it's not just video games. But anyway, there's engagement that you like to play your guitar, you like to sing, and you do it to the point where you kind of lose track of time and you get right into it. That predicts happiness, big time, all by itself. Even if you don't have that positive, fun, happy thing you go do watching the Leafs lose. Okay, then the next one is relationship. Relationship is, of course, it predicts happiness if you have meaningful relationships. The next one, meaning, we stick spirituality in there again. There's nothing worse than having somebody getting to high school and saying, I don't think I have a future, I don't know what I'm going to do, I have nothing to look forward to, I don't feel like I make a contribution to the family, and I don't have meaning, I don't know why, what's life about. That's a very, very dangerous situation as far as a mental health indicator. So meaning, of course, is in there. And the last one's accomplishment. You get some kind of competence in something. And you're good at it. You can make whistles. You can be a farmer. You can be a psychology guy. You can do a lot of different stuff. When you get some competence at that, and you're able then to make a change or a benefit to society, and you feel that as well, so social, recognized accomplishment, those are the 5 things. So you could go home tonight and say to your grandparents or somebody in the street, you think you had a happy life? They say yes. Say, why would you say you had a happy life? And you watch. One of the 5 will come up, or all 5, or some combination thereof. So that's about what I wanted to say tonight. Again, I try not to steal too many concepts from the people in the breakout sessions. You go to the breakout and we'll talk about this mental health across the ages, not just to focus on mental illness, but you can see what I was talking about here, how these very things for my child, if I had a child with a major depressive disorder or an anxiety disorder, I would not want them not exercising. I would not want them not to have the skills to connect with people or to express their feelings. These are the powerful things that we can do so readily in a school system as opposed to what they would do over the hospital. Okay, I'm going to stop about there. I'll take 2 questions if there's 2 burning questions, and I don't want to dig into the time allotted for the breakouts. We'll organize that in a second. Any questions off the top? Yeah. Not too hard, okay? Good.
Probably not something you can answer, but on the physical activity, I remember that in years past, schools used to have coaches and teams and sports and activities and all of that. Unfortunately, the Ministry of Education cut funding to all of that. And now we're seeing the effects of those cuts in our children and in the generations that came without any of that. Is there any pressure from the boards back to the ministry to say, we need to put funding back into
Yes, there is, and I'm now hearing from the ministry that they're trying to find, just like they know positive mental health and what we're talking about, teaching social and emotional learning skills, they know they have to get the fitness thing right. And the exercise physiologists and the medical people are all, we got Becky Mann, I didn't mention her tonight, and the health nurse that we met on the way in. She's one of our partners in this stuff. And her thing is health promotion in a comprehensive school mental health way, and mental health promotion is right up front and center with their work as well. And that's it exactly. You get a chance to talk to her about all the things going on in the county to move that agenda along. You're right on. We have to get there. We're not there. We still have lots of coaches and lots of those other activities, by the way, but yes, we have less physical activity than we had before. Right on. Okay. Then we can go. So, Susan and Beth are working at the primary level, and you're in room what?
I'm not sure.
Follow Susan.
Hi, I'm Susan Greer-Clay. So for anybody that's doing the intermediate and the primary sessions in terms of age range, if that's your interest in terms of your own kids, just go down the hall and turn left, and we'll lead you down there. If adolescence is the age range that you're interested in, then stay in this room. Yes, sir.
Sorry, quick question. I have a 5-year-old, I have a 12-year-old, I'm not quite sure where I should go.
Oh, I know. You should come to ours.
I mean, the 12-year-old is probably the one that I need to worry about.
You know what, like, yeah, just,
Which of the 2?
we have a lot of overlap in our content, so I think you'll find that both would be relevant, but maybe think about your own kids and which one would make more sense.
Just to add the overlap, the way that the team developed these sessions was to set up for the intermediate level first, and then 2 people went off with that set of concepts and put it into secondary with what the challenges that are for the stressors for secondary. But the basic set of concepts are the same. And likewise, going down to primary, same concepts, take them down to what you see in primary kids, what are their stressors. So you'll get the goods either way. Okay? So primary and junior intermediate can go off that way and connect up with your groups, and if you're doing secondary, hang around.